Coming up on today's episode.
There is no such thing as a right time. There is no such thing as a wrong decision. There's just only ever redirection. And you will always learn from these things. And if something is meant to be in your life, it will come back in, but it will come back in bigger and better. And you will be so better equipped to deal with it because you've gone through these motions. But make no mistake, if you're not meant to be where you are meant to be, the universe will keep bringing in these challenges, and they will start small, but they will get louder and louder until at some point you are probably going to be forced.
Welcome to Spirit in Sass, the podcast where intuition meets attitude and real talk gets a little more magical.
Hosted by us, Kelly Clark
and Jodie Mayhead.
This is your space for soulful insight, honest conversations, and a few laughs along the way.
Hi, welcome back to Spirit and Sass, episode number 2.
Woohoo!
Absolutely delighted to be back here. Hope everybody is having a good week. Today's topic of conversation is aligned or just avoiding problems. There we go. Boom.
Can we just avoid this?
Shall we? Yep.
Pop off.
Done. Episode's finished. So where do we begin? I'm guessing with the word aligned. So what does alignment feel or look for you, Cal?
For me, alignment is doing things that work for me, that give me that buzz, that energy. I always know when I'm in alignment with something because it doesn't feel jarring. Yeah. And I feel that in my whole body. Like if I'm having to do something on a particular day that I'm not looking forward to doing, or spending it with, people that maybe aren't my kind of people. I wake up in the morning and everything just feels off. I feel grumpy. I feel stagnant. When I'm doing something that I'm aligned with, again, I've mentioned this before, I feel excited. I feel looking forward to doing it. And I think, look, I'm an adult. I know we can't all skip around doing the wonderful things that we love doing, feeling jolly and aligned. That's not how life works. But I definitely think the majority of our time needs to be spent in alignment because it has such a huge effect on our mood, our energy, on how we push forward with our lives, and the effect we have on other people around us. And when your energy is in alignment, it's contagious. If I'm feeling a bit out of alignment and not great, and I see you and you're buzzing and you're this and you're that, it's uplifting. So I think being in alignment has so much more of an impact, not just on ourselves, but around other people, that it's a really important thing to do, is to be in alignment. What does it mean to you, Jo?
Yeah, I think exactly what you're saying, but I think for me as well, and I think I use this word probably more than alignment actually, but when you're just in that flow state, and it's when you're in that flow state that you know that you are in alignment with your path or your desires or where you're heading. And for me, that's when things just happen. You can talk freely, enthusiastically, you've got energy naturally there about something. It doesn't feel grungy and hard and heavy going. You absolutely show up on a whole different energetical vibration. That's when I know that I am kind of in alignment with my journey, with my path, with my desires. If I'm not buzzing from it and it's not free flowing easily for me, then it's probably not quite aligned with what I should be doing or what I would like to be doing. But like you, unfortunately, I am also an adult, and I know that, life is life and we all have to do things that we don't particularly want to do at times. But I guess, again, it's about balance of, I listened to something the other day and it was like your life should be made in thirds, 3/3. One is like where I guess you're in that flow state and everything's aligned, you're buzzing, it's going great. You've got that grey area in between, that other third, where it is a little bit day to day, mundane, you're not lit up, you're not dark, you're just kind of going. And then unfortunately, part of life is we can't always feel amazing every day. We can't have every scenario work out for us. We can't, shit times happen to us all and things crop up. And it's also accepting that some days are going to be bloody rubbish, and that is part of life. And it's not allowing you to derail yourself totally of like, my life shit, I'm doing, it's all gone tits up. This is just take stock of it, learn from it, and move forwards with it. So alignment, flow. If I'm aligned, I'm in that flow state. But unfortunately, for me, it's not achievable to be there all of the time.
And, we, as spiritual people, we all feel that maybe, we're not going to be Buddha. We're not going to be Mother Teresa or Daphne. Nobody can see what's beneath this side. The whole point of living this human experience is not to be all the time. It's to gain knowledge and experience, to be better, to live better lives, to help more people, and to grow through experience. And one of the things about having tough times is it's a resilience builder. And so what these things do is it means that you get back up a little bit quicker every single time. So it's not realistic to go, I'm just going to flow through life in complete flow. I know I should be on X Factor. Do they even do that anymore? Anyway, massive ADHD here. It's not about that, but it is about living a life that works for you in as much as ways as it possibly can, and knowing what to turn to when you are starting to feel massively out of alignment. And I think that's what's really key. We can sit in those stages of doing things we don't want to do. But what we need to be able to do is to return to that alignment and that flow state as much as we can to fill our cup. And it is like that, isn't it? You go through the week sorting everything out, working, dealing with family, gardening, paying bills, all these gardening. Who am I kidding? We do all these things and the cup starts to get lower and lower and lower. And so then we go off and do something, if we're lucky, that fills that cup back up, which allows us to deal back with that human state again. But I think where the avoidance comes in is when we start, because it's very good saying we are aligned, but aligned doesn't mean easy.
No, absolutely not.
That's really key. Yes, our body feels like that's right. And yes, we might feel in a happier state, but it doesn't make it easy. I, going back sort of a year or so ago, I took voluntary redundancy. And I did this, primarily because I was trying to help the rest of the team. But equally, because I think I probably realised deep down that I'd done what I could and it was time for me to move on to another journey. And so it wasn't easy. I left a well-paid job that I really enjoyed with people I absolutely adored, stepping out with no job whatsoever, no financial security, a family to support. And that was difficult. That was really, really hard. I went through all the feels, all the emotions. It was probably one of the hardest things work-wise I've ever had to do. But it felt aligned. It felt like it was absolutely the right thing to do. And so that's an example there of where alignment is there, but it's not an easy thing to do. Now, what I could have done was I could have said, well, do you know what? I need the money. This job works for me. Yeah. I love it. I'm gonna stay here in this comfort zone. And that's avoidance, And so, it's not always easy to stay in alignment. But again, coming back to something we spoke about in the first episode, it's about being honest with yourself. Where are you at, And even though I knew that was going to be hard and difficult and messy and not reassuring, it felt right. That intuition was right.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly it, isn't it? Alignment is when the situation or whatever, is happening is scary, but it feels right. Avoidance is very much when it's scary, still scary, but then you get, this overwhelming no, and that's because the ego has kicked in and gone like, absolutely not. This is not, safe territory for you. And we spoke a lot about this in our previous episode. And I think in that moment when you made that decision, that really hard, ballsy as decision to walk away from a really well-paid job because the situation had kind of presented itself to you and you had no other ducks in a line, at that point, that was a really brave thing to do. But you deep down had this inner knowing, this inner calling of actually it was the right time. This situation had presented, and even though you could so easily have stayed there out of fear of the unknown, you knew in that moment that if you'd done that, you would not be back. You would not be on your life's path. You would not be aligned with where you were heading, what your true values were. That role, as much as you loved it, had served a purpose, and you made some incredible friends and learned so much. But your time was done there. But it's very hard at times to find the courage to step away and let go of a really good thing, trusting that there is something else better. And what if there isn't? Well, then we have that fear. Our ego will go, but what if there isn't? What if you don't get another job? My God, you could be absolutely down and out on the streets now, Kel.
Well, I am. I borrowed this from
you took that aligned action without knowing.
Yeah, but
what
equally
was going to be the other side, but you had an inner trusting.
Yeah, but I probably wouldn't have made that decision without that little jab from the universe, without that opportunity.
Absolutely.
So you do have to look out for these signs, and when they come up for you, go, okay, like something's come forward for me now. It doesn't feel easy, but this needs to be investigated. And it's just, there's so many times when we can avoid things for the sake, and we're not just talking big. I mean, what I've given is a huge example there, and I'm not trying to make myself out to be some martyr. It was just something that came to my mind. But there are lots of situations that we avoid every day.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we don't want to have difficult conversations, or because we can't be asked. Let's face it. How many times have you gone, oh, I don't want to go out tonight. I've agreed to go out, but I really can't be bothered. Oh, I'm exhausted. But you go because, and you have the best night of your life. And then how many times have you gone, sod it, I'm not going. I'm not going because I don't feel like it. I'm tired and I just need some time for myself. And that's fine. We all need time for ourselves. But how many times have you said no? And why are you saying no to these potential opportunities? Because you never know what is going to come out of it.
No, I mean, for me, I am that person. I moan. I have no social life. I don't really see anybody. I don't do anything. I'm tucked up in bed, which I'm not bothered by. I actually do like my bed at 10 o'clock. I am not a night owl in the slightest, but I am the moaner that I never get to see anybody do anything or, have any fun. And then when I get presented with these situations where I can go out, socialize, see people, and have fun, if I allowed myself, I could talk myself out of those situations of like, I've got nothing to wear. I don't know what I'm going to say. I haven't seen them in ages. Or I've got to walk into a crowded pub by myself, however, I've got to be up early, however that might be. And like you said, it's, I think in those moments, there's some situations we all have to take one for the team and we don't want to go and we do it and we just do it. And there's some that we're like, I've got no high expectations for this, but we go and we have a bloody good time. And it's just what we needed. We just didn't realize it. But equally, we've all probably been there where we've avoided a situation for whatever reason, thinking that actually we're doing it out of self-care, or we're tired, or, we're just going to look after ourselves. I'm not really up to it. But where is that line of it being self-care and you are being kind to yourself? And actually, it's almost a bit self-detrimental and you're not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone quite as much as you could be.
Yeah. And there's the other things that hold us back as well, isn't there? What if people are judging me? Yeah. It's, again, going back to a few things we mentioned last time. If you don't leave that job, what if I don't have enough money? What if I don't get another job? And I suppose I find this quite difficult and I'm probably not always the best person to speak to about this because I am inherently a bit of a risk taker. I am that person who just goes, F it, I'm going to bloody do it, and figure it out along the way.
And this is why we work well, because for clarity, like for you guys listening, so Kels is the risk taker and I'm the polar opposite. I am the whole every single duck literally in an immaculate row, no stone is unturned. I need to know everything about all the answers, exactly how this is going to pan out before I go anywhere. So we are almost,
it works though, doesn't it?
We are absolute, like on the opposite ends of the scale here.
It's quite funny. I drag Jode into situations. I mean, we've had some funny situations, haven't we, Jode? We went into Avebury to like a spiritual fair, and we sort of milled around a little bit. There wasn't an awful lot going on, so I said, well, let's go for a little walk. And there's a lovely shop, which there is a lovely shop called the Henge, I think. And we went in, and there was a incredible shaman in there, and we were in that shop for 3 hours. 3 hours. I mean, this is somebody who can't sit still for too long, or I get fed up. And Jode's mind is always in 25 different places. 3 hours we were in that shop. I mean, I came to at one point and somebody was videoing us. So if you've seen us go viral for not this reason, that's what it is. But we get plunged into these situations because we take these unknown risks and stuff. We could have just got in the car and gone home, but we didn't. And what we gained from that experience, and we'll probably tell you all about that in detail in another episode.
Worth on what happened with this shaman.
Definitely. A whole journey.
Yeah, we really did a whole shamanic journey.
Yeah,
we were very blessed actually. People would spend a fortune for that type of experience.
Yeah, it was amazing. But we kind of, so sometimes letting yourself into the unexpected can lead you in, and I'm a big believer in, you don't know who you're going to meet. You just don't know what opportunities are going to come your way. So say yes. And I mean, ultimately, I can be a little bit naive and a little bit blonde, as some people would say at times. I do go in blindly to situations like people worry about my safety, and things like that. But I struggle, I suppose, not struggle with people, because I like to think that I'm quite a, supportive person. But I will always be on the side of, okay, well, what's the worst that can happen here? I've got this saying, and another friend of mine laughs. I was like, she was talking about something once, and I said, we've survived 100% of our days so far, and she's like, well, yeah, obviously we're here, but I think we have. Think of all the things you have been through. I bet we've all got a story. You can look back at all the shit that you have gone through, and you've come out the other side of it. And that's because you've built resilience, and because you crack on, don't you? You have to. So, I'm quite big on pushing the boundaries, taking the risks, and seeing what bloody happens. And if it doesn't work out, well, you've learned something from it. So it didn't fail, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, as I'm the opposite, I am a little bit I like to pre-plan way too much. So it's nice, actually, because Kels is the biggest advocate, for that, just throwing slight caution to the wind and giving things a go, which is great for me, because you show me a whole nother perspective of kind of what have you got to lose, what's the worst that can happen. And that's exactly that. A lot of the times when we're doing things, or we're making changes, or we're trying something new, we almost allow ourselves to go down a whole rabbit hole of the ifs and the buts. And starting this podcast, it was a big thing. But what is the worst that can happen? Nobody listens to us. So what? We're having great fun. Yeah. We're not going to die. Nobody's going to, get run over, killed. Like, nothing major is going to happen. Yes, we might look a little silly. So what? Nobody listens. So what? People might think that, they might have a lower opinion. So what? It's keeping things in perspective, because for me, I am a catastrophizer. I absolutely can make a mountain out of a molehill, 100% in any scenario. I'm really working on it, but I am the kind of half empty rather than half full type of girl. Massively, that is my mission, to absolutely change my perspective. But just by me acknowledging that that's what I'm like, or I have those tendencies, almost allows me to kind of take stock a little bit easier and reason with myself on whether then I'm kind of doing things out of alignment that they genuinely don't feel right, or whether I'm actually just the fears crept in, or the insecurities of how this is going to pan out has crept in, or I'm going to look stupid or whatever. And it's that kind of, just by being aware, I think, of your own kind of personal attributes and traits is a really big thing, because so many people will never have even thought about any of this on, alignment, or it's very easily sold, as we grow up. Life is hard, you work hard, it is grueling every day, you get up, you go to work, that's what it's all about. And actually, yes, life can be really tough, but actually, does it have to be as difficult as sometimes we make it? I, like I said, will catastrophize everything, and I would probably say 99.9% of these situations that I've already catastrophized in my own head never actually happened. My mind will have gone through it and almost betrayed that that's definitely what's going to happen in the situation. Probably 99.9% of the time it never actually did.
Yeah, and I mean, you're massively hard on yourself, because you are here doing this. You have taken a risk, and you have, and like you said, being aware is half the battle. I'm not saying that, again, I always end up with I'm not saying you have to leave your job or you have to make these huge leaps. No. But what we're really talking about here is understanding what drives your energy and makes you feel good, not just from an ego perspective of, I went and bought a new blouse and I feel lovely. And, what actually from your inners makes you feel like this is right. And it should all feel right. There shouldn't be any jarring. If it's jarring in certain elements of your life, then there's other aspects that you need to look into and pay attention to. But what you really need to understand is kind of like, why am I avoiding this? What am I gaining from avoiding this? And that's been some big questions for me. Or, in my actions, if I'm doing something, I'm training to be a psychotherapist, and it's been really enlightening. And one of the people I was talking to said to me, what do you gain from putting, looking after people, saving people? I've realized I'm a saver. What do you gain from that? I was nothing. I don't gain anything from it. I'm trying my best for other people. And when she reframed that question and asked me, I realized I was gaining from it. I was gaining a sense of being important to other people, because I didn't always necessarily feel important. And then you have this light bulb moment of, God, I'm doing all this other stuff, and probably a little bit selfishly, because it makes me feel like I'm needed. And when you open up all these kind of self thoughts about yourself, you realize that actually you just need to feel good about yourself, and you need to do what's right for you. And a lot of that comes addressing these but these things of, what am I avoiding doing today? And that can be small things such as making the phone call you don't want to make. Why? Because, you don't like talking to people, or you don't like what the outcome's going to be, or you have to deal with it anyway. Or the bigger issues of, why am I staying in this relationship when things are just jarring so much? Why am I staying in this job? Well, because of the money. How important is that? What is the worst that can happen? How long are you willing to stay in this self-perpetuating cycle out of fear and avoidance, because you just don't know what's going to happen? Well, you don't know what's going to happen if you stay in that situation either. Life has a funny way of throwing things at us, but at least that way you get to take control. If you're willing to actually look at that yourself and start making changes, you are in as much control as you can be of your own destiny, rather than just staying still, staying stuck out of comfort and avoidance.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And it does, I think, this so links back to the first episode that we did, where really everything that you've just spoke about it's we spoke about change and how any kind of change comes with being uncomfortable, whether that be in yourself, a situation, people around you, whatever. But that is the biggest reason we stay stuck, is because we're not prepared to get uncomfortable. And again, you know, not going back over the last episode, but we can absolutely do the self-care, the self-love jargon, protecting our energy, you know, that doesn't feel right. But and there will be absolute genuine, you know, I am huge for your gut instincts, but it's also being open-minded to actually going deep and thinking, actually, is that doesn't feel aligned? Or, you know, is this relation, you know, am I happy with the dynamics of my relationship or friendships or work or career or whatever? You know, am I truly, is this totally working for me? And or is it that to kind of improve those, it doesn't even mean about walking away from a job or relationship or friendship, but to have conversations that are going to be difficult to try and improve the situations, but they are going to be uncomfortable. And it's whether you're avoiding that because you don't want the discomfort, or whether you're avoiding that because it genuinely doesn't feel the right thing to do and it's not aligned. And that's, I think, the two biggest, you know, that's the two options really. And it's just taking stock in those moments, really. Absolutely. And doing it. And unfortunately, avoidance, you know, will eventually, you know, it will, these things don't, you know, situations don't just change, or, you know, we don't just change. So if things aren't in alignment and we're not in that flow that I spoke about earlier, others don't change, you know, nobody changes, we can't change, but unless we make the changes that are right for us, the situations aren't going to improve. And so eventually over time, what happens is you kind of you build resentment, you build anxiety, you build burnout, you know, you get a lack of confidence, you kind of get this feeling of feeling stuck, you're not like where you want to be anymore. All these kind of feels manifest into this now, just because you probably haven't been 100% kind of truthful or had quite the courage to kind of get out of these situations or move forwards in tiny little steps onto that path where you're heading. But what I do know is we cannot expect other, you know, people to change for us, jobs to change for us, situations to change for us. That will never happen. It's only us that can make these tiny little incremental changes to move forwards. And that's where being true to yourself and being in alignment for you very much overrules the whole avoiding the discomfort and avoiding, you know, problems that we just don't really want to address at that time.
And I think, and this goes back to something you said earlier, Jade, one of the biggest questions I certainly hear from people is, but what if I make the wrong decision?
Yeah.
What if that was the wrong thing to do? And I think, you know, Jodie mentioned a while ago, probably on the past thing, that these things don't happen overnight. So if you are questioning a certain area of your life, this just hasn't popped into your head and you've gone, oh, I suddenly hate my job. I need to do something new. I'm going to go out. I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. And, you know, sometimes we do things reactionary if we've had a huge fight with our boss. But chances are that huge fight with your boss is the fourth fight you've had over 6 months. You know, these things tend to start stacking up. And so when you are faced with things not feeling aligned, it's not come in quietly. It's started to stack over, or not come in loudly, should I say, quietly over a period of time. It's come in. And so you already know that this isn't going to work. And it doesn't matter whether you sit in that avoidance for 2 weeks, just spat on the screen there, whether you sat in avoidance for 2 weeks or you've sat in it for 2 years. What's the biggest question is, how long are you willing to sacrifice your peace, yourself, your life to stay in that zone? That's the real key thing. And for some people, they will happily stay there because that's their protection mechanism. And you know what? That's okay. If that's how people want to manage their lives, that's absolutely fine, because maybe they're on a different life path. But I think if you're listening to this, you're probably of the mindset that you want as much out of life as you can possibly get, and you want to be as aligned as you possibly can be. And so, unfortunately, there is no such thing as a right time. There is no such thing as a wrong decision. There's just only ever redirection, and you will always learn from these things. And if something is meant to be in your life, it will come back in, but it'll come back in bigger and better. And you will be so better equipped to deal with it because you've gone through these motions. But make no mistake, if you're not meant to be where you are meant to be, the universe will keep bringing in these challenges, and they will start small, but they will get louder and louder until at some point you are probably going to be forced, whether you lose your job, whether that person does something that creates a huge row, whatever that looks like, it's going to come. So start thinking now about what the areas of your life you want to improve, where you're aligned, where you've been sat in avoidance, and how you can start making small incremental changes to move towards that sense of alignment, remembering it's not always easy.
No, absolutely. And I think as well, sometimes as well, it's not grand gestures, it's not big steps, it's not little things. But like Cal said, that if we're not kind of where we're supposed to be going, the universe will just kind of push harder and harder until one day, like something big does happen, like you lose your job or whatever. If you've had opportunities to kind of to navigate in a different way, and you've kind of not through fit, not because they weren't genuinely right for you, but it was fear-based, eventually the universe will say, fine, you're going to have to lose your job and you're going to have to go through hardship a minute to get you back where you are. But hindsight is an amazing thing, and I think we will have all looked back. We could name a lot of scenarios, big, small, whatever, insignificant at the time even, or hugely major at the time. But hindsight, you will often look back and think, God, like, thank God, that actually was, as much as that was the hardest and most, difficult thing to happen, or that was, it caused a lot of problems, but thank goodness, because actually from that, look at everything now. You just don't know it at the time, but it's trusting that everything happens for a reason. I personally feel that, everything happens for a reason. And I know that's a very broad statement, because people do genuinely go through absolute tragedy and horrific circumstances that you could never justify anybody would ever deserve to need, to go through these things. But our souls are here for lessons, and we will be learning the lessons. And sometimes they can be in the most painful ways, but we will keep being pushed to where we need to go. And we can either kind of listen and take chances and risks with that, or we can just stay stuck. But any small step or any small change, even if it isn't, because I like to do things right. That's just me. And I'm always asking the universe for another sign, however that might be, a purple butterfly, a blinking, rose in the garden, a robin, a magpie, whatever, just give me this sign and then I know this is right. But actually we don't need the signs, because we know deep down what is right. And if for whatever reason we do make a choice that isn't 100% right, there will be lessons learned, and it will navigate back again. But any step is a step forwards. Not making any step at all is just 100% staying stagnant, and you will not progress or find alignment or fulfill what we were here to do.
And you always end with this real prophetic kind of message. You want to who used to be thinking about the one-liners?
You wrapped it up beautifully, and then suddenly I was like, oh, and then I lost my train of thought slightly. But anyway, that's, I think, what I was trying to say is any step in any direction is a step forwards. No step at all is staying stagnant and making no progress whatsoever. So don't be worried about whether it's right or wrong. Just take a step, and it will all work out. It will all become clear. But if you choose to take no step, then unfortunately you just end up, putting up, shutting up, and cracking on.
I think we'll be opening a TikTok shop soon with pictures of Jodie's one-liners. You are one inspirational mother, lady.
Absolutely.
And in case anybody's interested, I did manage to secure self-employment going through consultancy, and I've got clients and actually, you know, did okay. I'm not destitute, people. I'm not destitute.
No.
That's still #disclaimer. Don't leave your job and then blame me if you don't get another one.
No.
But there we go. Just thought I'd let you know.
But by opening that space, you welcomed in something better. So
And more learnings. There were
Yeah.
definitely more learnings. But I'm here. I'm fully clothed. Hair is washed, and you know, I am showing up. So
you are
no,
indeed.
we're doing well. Okay, so there's final few takeaways, guys. Okay, notice the energy behind any decision that you are thinking of making. Okay, is that energy being driven by fear? Does it feel fearful, fear-ridden, or does it feel peaceful, even if it's not easy? So really, again, energy is a big thing, guys. We're going to be pumping this energy into you every single time that we speak to you. So really start paying attention to yourself and how that feels. Any decision you do make, sit with it for 24 hours, okay? If you are in alignment with that decision, even though there will still be ifs and buts and maybes, there will still be that sense of flow and peace that, yeah, actually that still feels quite right.
Yeah.
If it's a decision you're making that's being held back by fear, it will still, you know, fear will go, ooh. So listen again, sit with the decision for 24 hours to give yourself that time to process that energy, that emotion, and make sure that still feels right for you.
I think that's crucial because even though I like my ducks in a row, I am slightly hot-headed. And I can be that person that can react in an instant or say words that I don't always mean and I regret later. Or I can be a keyboard warrior at times in my day job and fire off an email and then almost be like, no, send it back. So I have really learned, and I think that's really good advice, to just sit with something for 24 hours. If it still feels like, if that email still feels very relevant and the right thing the following morning, then absolutely send it. You know, or if you feel you need to speak that, then say it. But just give yourself that moment to sit.
I've got into so much trouble for that before. I really have.
Too.
So
I would have been sacked if it wasn't my husband that was the boss.
I don't know how I haven't been sacked, to be honest, but in previous jobs. Okay, be honest with yourself about what you're avoiding, even if you can't be honest with anybody else.
Yeah,
No one can jumping up and down. Be honest with yourself. That is the thing. And then what you do from that point, we can work on, but just start having those honest conversations with yourself and ask yourself, if you're not, why am I not? What am I scared of? Maybe the question isn't, is this in alignment with me, or am I aligned with this? Maybe the question is, am I being honest with myself? So even if this whole alignment thing still seems a bit alien to you and you don't quite know what it means, turn the question around, am I being honest with how I feel about this?
100%. Totally stripped back, non-spiritual, to the point version.
Yeah, stripped back. There we go. Sometimes the most aligned thing you can do is have the conversation you've been avoiding. I know it's shit. I don't want to ring HMRC next week. I've really been avoiding that one, but I am going to have to do it. But you know how much better you feel once you have done it. And
absolutely. The relief will come after it's been done.
And even if the outcome isn't what you wanted, it's been done. You know, it is what it is.
Absolutely.
And I love this one. This is a Jodie nugget, I feel. Okay.
Intrigued.
Alignment isn't always found in comfort. Sometimes it's found in courage.
Yeah, 100%. Courage all the way. Yeah. I can't reiterate enough. We cannot, unfortunately, go through the whole of our lives staying comfortable.
So, well, that's that. And actually, we blabbered on for even longer than the last one.
Actually.
So, well, lucky you. And our next episode is all about, having the right people around you and how you navigate that if you haven't got the right people around you.
I think it's something along the lines of, does everybody have the right to your energy or something like that?
There we go. Don't need to do it now. I've just showed you there. There's not energy. Anyway, guys.
Tune in for that one.
Yes. So, yeah.
That's it. Right. Another session done. Another episode 2 in the bag.
God, and our 2 followers have grown to 3. Yay! So, no. Have a really wonderful time, guys. We hope this has been of use. And actually, we do want your feedback. Do, drop us a message, whatever. Let us know what you're thinking. Please subscribe to our channels. It's, for our ego that we're desperately trying to work on, we would love some subscribers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
be kind. We are absolutely open to constructive kind of feedback and criticism, but always try and be kind.
If you can't be kind, be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah,
You despair of me, don't you?
I do.
You like me kind of, I'm like, be careful.
No. I'm just trying to protect my.
I feel like
I am also still work in progress, just like everybody
you're
else
amazing.
here. So
She's
no.
absolutely amazing.
Right.
Love her.
Look
Okay.
forward to seeing you for episode 3.
Bye, guys.
Bye.